Hello, 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 and welcome to a special live chat edition of Anchor Watch. Wasn't really scheduled to do one, but a couple of people asked me to do so. So I'm doing it. It's Memorial Day 2026, and I've had a lot of different thoughts about what the day means in this current environment. Um, Historically speaking, Memorial Day is something that just kind of evolved in America. As America became a first hemispheric power and then evolved into a world power, we saw this desire to have remembrance of people who went before. But the line of demarcation was basically the Civil War, the American Civil War. And out of that came basically Decoration Day. Now, I talked about this in my morning briefing, but the first real organized remembrance of the sacrifices of the Civil War was done by recently freed slaves in Charleston, South Carolina. And for those who don't know, Charleston, South Carolina was the major entry point of the African slave trade in our country. And so these people who endured generations were very thankful for the Union soldiers that made the ultimate sacrifice. And it actually highlighted traditions that went all the way back to Africa. Uh, Decoration Day eventually was created in 1868. Decorations meaning if you were lucky enough to have a gravestone, people would come and decorate it. And that's a tradition we still see, specifically with military grave sites to this day. You know, you'll see the coins, you'll see the medallions, all sorts of things. So Memorial Day really became a federal holiday in the wake of World War One. And this is basically a combination of what Europe did to recognize all of the people that fought in that war, along with America, etc. And no matter what the political sway of the country, there has historically always been a recognition of the sacrifice. You know, the saying that some, all gave some, but some gave all was always this recurring thing. What's been interesting to me in this current political environment, in the age of Trump, is how those sacrifices have not only been politicized, but minimized because it may not fit a certain narrative. Remember when Trump came into office during his second administration, the mass wiping out of anything that they thought was DEI related. They basically used AI to purge websites, federal sites of black, brown, you know, Asian, female, LGBTQ, any type of sacrifice for this country that was made by anybody other than white men seemed to be automatically erased and eliminated. And let's be clear, I think they thought they could get away with it and they were surprised at the backlash. I think a lot of the things that the current administration is doing has surprised them to see that there's a wall to which America will not go through in order to basically sustain power. But what was disturbing to me out of all of the things that they did was how they treated Arlington Cemetery. And people may forget, but I'm not, and I won't, how they removed the names of certain people who were buried at Arlington solely based on a demographic, meaning taking away Colin Powell's biographical information, taking away the fact that U.S. colored troops, which is what they were called during the Civil War, were in a certain section. The outrageousness of eliminating these people who sacrificed. And they were being eliminated by people who did not have the testicular fortitude to serve themselves. Elon Musk hadn't served. He was the head of Doge. Um, President Trump famously dodged a draft. And the disregard for the final resting place, let alone the service of those people who were buried there, is really what jumped at me. And I was concerned, but I was happy to see the pushback. I also thought that would be the end of it. Well, now you see these reports of trying to put a huge triumph monument in front of Arlington Cemetery that obstructs the view of those rows of limestone headstones to overlook and see into Washington, D.C. Trump wants like a Triumph Day Arc to be put there to obscure that view. Mind you, this view that Jackie Kennedy picked out for John F. Kennedy to be buried so he could still see into Washington, D.C., wants to be basically eliminated by Donald Trump in something tacky. What I find amazing this Memorial Day is the willingness to sacrifice American troops to make Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth look tough, but at the same time see how they are doing everything to diminish their sacrifice. With the dismantlement of the VA the way they're doing it, with the lack of accountability for the 13 soldiers that have been killed, service members that have been killed since this Iran thing started, and not doing more for them, to the the known disdain that President Trump has when he has to deal with disabled veterans, how he doesn't want to see them. It blows my mind. It blows my mind. Wearing baseball caps that are political at the dignified transfer service over at Dover Air Force Base when these people come back because, it's all about him. I have found it very hard not to be angry to the point where I just completely disengage. Because there's always been this sacred trust, historically speaking, between the United States and its service people that, hey, we may ask you to do hard things, but if something happens to you, we will take care of you. And if you don't come back, we will take care of your family. And that's kind of where I'm at with this Memorial Day. 1.3 million servicemen and women have died in defense of this country in 250 years. From all 50 states, all American territories, both genders, other genders, and the complete spectrum of religious background. And to watch Pete Hegseth at West Point give a speech where he basically narrows it down and says, none of that matters. Your story of how you got here, especially if it was hard, doesn't matter. All that matters is we look a certain way in leadership and we are perceived a certain way by the rest of the world. Blows my mind. He's saying that at a place, West Point, where their first Black graduate was ostracized and basically kicked out of the Army over trumped up charges only to be completely exonerated 100 years later. He's saying that at a place where the fourth Black graduate of that institution, Benjamin O. Davis Jr., led the Tuskegee Airmen despite flying in inferior equipment and being in segregated bases. He's saying that in a place where literally some of the first casualties of the war on terror were women doing hard things. It's very hard for me to process that. And this is coming from an Annapolis grad. And I know that's our rival school, but understand something. We are all one big family when it comes to this military thing. It's sort of like you can talk trash about your aunt and uncle, but no one else better damn say a word about them. It's kind of like that, right? And so what I'm asking people to do today, I just talked about this on Ken Harbaugh's show, is two things. One, just go to the Congressional Medal of Honor website and look up someone who's from your hometown, home state, close to where you live, and see the extraordinary things that they did for this country. And the reason I want you to look at someone who's local is because you'll find these people were not superheroes. They just did superhero type things when the time called. They weren't the bravest. They weren't the toughest. They weren't the strongest. but they were the most resilient, and they did things on behalf, not necessarily of their country, but because of their shipmate or battle buddy that they were more concerned about. The selflessness. So I implore you over this time to take 5 minutes to do that, and then 5 minutes to look up when your local city council or county commission is meeting, and go sit down and have a conversation with people who are there. Sit down and just pay attention and see how your government is supposed to work. Because here's the thing, every one of those limestone graves that you see, every one of those people who never even got to come back home, those who were buried at sea, etc. The sacrifice that they made was for you to be able to participate in government. And so as everybody is upset about what's happening here, we are the saviors we've been looking for. The system can be flipped overnight if we chose to, if we pulled ourselves out of our collective asses and see what we can do. And I'm trying to be calm about it, but the more I think about this, to have people who either didn't serve question the mettle of those who did, or those who served and sat there and basically said, hey, these other people that served with me, they were only here because of some DEI policy. When the first person to die for what's called America was a black sailor, Crispus Attucks, I it just, it upsets me. It upsets me. And the thing that those of you who have not served, y'all need to understand your service is literally taking care of this country. That's what it is. Whether through who you vote for, and when veterans come back, making sure that they're taken care of, that's your service. You know, it really is. It's a different form, but it's damn just as important. And I need you to understand that. And finally, if you do know a family that has lost a loved one from serving in military action, whether it's training, active duty, whatever, please check on them today. Check in on them and make sure that they're doing okay. Um, that's pretty much all I had to say today. If anybody has any questions for me in the chat, please. By the way, thank you for the wonderful comments. It's 25 years ago today, uh, to the minute, actually, a little bit later, was when I got commissioned as an ensign in the United States Navy. It's been a long 25 years. It's been a long 25 years. Um, Things I never thought I would see or say or do over the course of 25 years, has really come home to roost. But I love the fact that you guys are talking about what you can do to maintain and think about Veterans Day and to honor those who have given the ultimate sacrifice. It's people like you who allow us to not only have hope, but to know that eventually the fever will break and we'll return to somewhat sane discussions, not these crazy things. Um, yeah, God bless all of you. Have a good reflective Memorial Day, and I will talk to you soon. Thanks.